We're excited today to talk to Brian Benson from Benson Integrated Marketing. One of the reasons we reached out was I had the pleasure of getting a tour of the facility, and I was kind of blown away at what I saw there and wanted to hear a little bit more about how they wound up doing what they do there. And I know that sounds a little mysterious, but it was mysterious when I went to the location. So welcome, Brian.
Thank you.
So, yeah, when I stopped by your location, the first room I got to see was an embroidery room. And there was tons of embroidery going on. And then as I walked through, I was kind of blown away at the absolute amazing portfolio of services that you provided, that, to the point where I had no idea what you did, because I came in thinking you were a commercial printer. I came in with okay, I'm going to see a commercial printer because I knew you had HB Indigos on your floor. I'm thinking, okay, he's got this series and that series, then I know what they do. And I went in with a preconceived notion of what you did until I got there. And I saw the the variety of things that you provide. And your John, who was giving me the tour, kind of explained to me how you guys had really targeted a certain vertical market. Can you explain what that market is?
Sure, I'll explain to the best of my ability. I'd like to say that I have some Ivy League degree and this was just some great business strategy that I developed, but that's not the case. We today we sell what we call a centralized marketing platform, and that's fancy for really just dedicated account teams, online stores, which many of us use for print, etc. But we've been really focused on just a couple verticals, and one of those is multifamily housing. And on that journey, I think for me, I'm just really passionate about providing solutions to my clients. It's actually in our vision. We say we provide solutions that are found nowhere else. And I think in that journey of just, I've been really fortunate to work with some really creative companies. And, I used to laugh earlier in my career. I would be in a room and say, if it's absolutely positively never been done, call me. And, that led to these crazy opportunities to do, what you saw on the tour, everything from, lit monument blade signs to cups to ID badges to paper printing, temporary signs. And it was no genius business strategy. It was really just taking advantage of opportunities in areas where our customers could not get the service that they needed. And, I think early in our career, we kind of saw ourselves as a promo company, a print company, an apparel company, and then really had an identity crisis, to be completely honest, because people are like, what do you really do? Why are you different? So we really, I'd say back in 2000, 2001, started trying to determine who we were as an organization. And that led to, what we call today the centralized marketing platform, which, many of your customers and HP customers have that platform. They just may not have taken it to the breadth of products that we have. At least that's what I've experienced, in my attending D-Scoop. There's so many creative HP customers.
What how did you wind up in that particular vertical? Like because to say yes to them, it means you kind of have to say no to others.
Sure. I think that was strategic. We've been really passionate at Benson about being a top player in the verticals that we're in. And we believe that, in this particular case, we're probably the largest marketing integrator or provider to multifamily in the country. And that affords us a lot of intellectual knowledge around trends, purchasing habits, but more importantly, building a platform that operates to their needs. And I think we always want what we don't have. So many other D-Scoop members that I'm friends with, I'm jealous that they've got a sales force of 10 people and they can do all these big projects. And I think I think though for us, we've just really focused on, becoming the foremost expert on centralized marketing platforms. But I think that coins what we call marketing operations cost. So what is the cost to get that item to a delivery stage? And those costs can range from the creative back and forth to the material selections. And I think fortunately we've had really great retention. I sold my first multifamily customer in 1992, and they're still a client today, and they're one of the top 10 largest owners in the country. So, I often like to say, again, I don't want to give myself too much credit, but they gave me a PhD in apartment marketing for free. and frankly, we've used that to our advantage.
That's just such a cool story. I mean, I give you a lot of credit for making that leap. I'm curious about how it affected your sales process. Like, because before this, you were selling it to far more markets and far more verticals?
Far more verticals for sure. I think I was set up more like a traditional PSP. We had salespeople. We were bidding on jobs for random, projects, verticals, customers, and it ran the gamut. Just like I think a lot of us in our print world today. And I think it's nice to we're proud of what we've done at Benson, but I think it's prudent to also say there's drawbacks to focusing on one vertical. I joke because when I joined the HP family, one of the things they talked about was when you buy these indigos, you're going to have people call you wanting to print, you to print jobs for them, and that came to fruition. I had some really great large opportunities that fell in our lap, but we were not tooled to do those type projects. I didn't have, I have one estimator and I have one business development / salesperson for the entire organization. So I've developed friendships with other PSPs and referred that work to them. But, like every entrepreneur, it's really hard when someone calls you and says, I do 300,000 direct mail pieces a month to say no. We don't do that. So, we're proud of what we're doing in this particular vertical, and, we're branching out into some other verticals, but, it also comes with some, sometimes, it's a little scary to turn down opportunities like that. But that has affected our ability. We don't have a sales manager. We don't have a sales force. We have one biz dev person. We have one estimator. So we couldn't take that kind of work, even if we, tried to, pivot and say we're going to start doing that in 2024. We're just not tooled for that.
I always found it interesting that companies that choose to specialize, and congratulations for making that business decision, it seems to have really worked out for you, is that what you make up, I guess what you lack in width, like the kinds of business you might take, you might make up for in depth. You probably really know the ins and outs and needs of a multifamily property marketer and that team. Can you share a little bit about like sort of the process and the journey that you've taken as a company to understand that person who makes those buying decisions, who needs what you need, who probably cares deeply about centralized marketing? Take me through the mind of that prime buyer of yours.
Sure. I think it's interesting, and I think this probably is applicable to all of us in the graphic arts, industry. In our particular vertical, we have very defined personas, and we actually did a persona study on multifamily buyers of the products we sell. And so I think we can all everybody that you work with can imagine that the persona of a COO, right, is much different than that of like a regional manager and then a property manager. So in our business, when we're selling a centralized marketing platform, it's very attractive to a COO because it gives them a lot of control and visibility into what's happening within their organization. And so, I always say that the platform we offer is a fairly easy sell to the COO. But once they sign the contract, our real customer are the folks in the field that are ordering and implementing these tools that their organization has chosen. And we all know this. The regional manager wants to be in the loop and wants to know what's going on, and they want to approve things. And the property manager wants it to be fast, easy, and cheap. And so we went through, and I think, again, this was blind luck on our part. We lived in a state of conflict for quite a while because we didn't quite understand the differences in those personas. So we would talk to all personas the same way. And I think, to your point about staying focused in a single vertical, is it gives you a lot of opportunity to really dive deep into that vertical. And in this case, we today truly understand all of the personas that we need to deliver our CMP to. And, a really great analogy of this is on the permanent sign side. You were talking about the paint booths, and we're making a lighted monument sign on a 30-story high-rise building. And my primary customer is the head of construction for that project. When you start copying them on emails about fonts and words and things like that, their head's about to pop off, because in their mind, they can go to Home Depot and buy a no trespassing sign and throw it up on the building. And so just navigating, down to these personas, how you communicate, who you include, when you exclude, those are just the journeys that we've been on. And again, it wasn't some great business strategy. I say we learned the hard way when customers were upset. Like, I don't really give a damn about the font. I need it installed tomorrow for inspections. So it's been fun. I mean, we still have a lot to learn. I by no means would say that we learn something every day in the space. And I mean, certainly since COVID, the dynamics have changed. So you can really throw out a lot of your research that you had pre-COVID. And so, I like to say we're kind of on our second life at Benson, because we're having to really rethink a lot of what we thought we knew since COVID.
Really? So 20 years of experience, and every day you're relearning something.
Yeah, I think so. I often tell folks, I think like all of us, when COVID came, we saw like a 72% dip in sales in like 3 days. And I like a lot of people, I was talking to my father on the way home, and I was like, I don't know if I'll be in business. I don't care how much money I've saved, how smart I was, how hard I would work. We were fortunate with all of our verticals that we were able to get into the mask business, the social distance sign business, we made germ shields in our permanent sign division. So we had a rebound and actually had one of our best years. But going into COVID, I was petrified like everybody. Ironically, I like to say today, coming out of COVID, frankly, has become more difficult than what we went through during COVID, because so much has changed. Expectations, buying patterns, product shifts, and just a lot of change and transition right now. At least that's what we're seeing in the verticals that we are in.
Can you go into a little bit more detail? Like, what do you mean by changes in buying habits and things like that?
Well, I mean, I think it's specific to multifamily, right? You're going away from guided tours to self-guided tours to all kinds of new rules at the properties. That's just one of many just transformational things that are happening. Down to what folks care about in the content. Demographics are shifting, and who's renting apartments. Just change like that. I mean, we years ago did a focus group study on what a resident would want in a brochure. What would more likely get them to lease an apartment, and we found that data to stay true for more than 10 years. Post-COVID, it's just not the case anymore. So it's just crazy stuff like that that, frankly, has got me working harder today than I did probably the few years leading up to COVID.
Say that again. Did you do your own research, or is that on behalf of a client, or did you do your own primary research?
We do our own primary research related to the products that we provide to the industry. So, as you guys all know, your best focus groups are facilitated by someone that's an expert in it, so they can ask the question the right way, collect the data. But we have done that type of research with brochures down to promotional products. And then more joint venture work is more around like uniform programs where you need to get buy-in from team members. But for the tools we provide for leasing and sales, we're going direct to the consumer that our customers would be using. And I think that's important because you all know, and I feel this way about the printing industry that I'm in. I like to say I'm an expert in the print business, but I'm very biased because I've got 30 years of experience. When we can get in front of our customer's customer, it gives you a lot of power and information that you can use. I even say that, like, we all have stores that we built, proprietary storefronts, or bought them through some of the larger providers. An example of that, one of my pet peeves is that I don't have product ratings in the store. And all the software providers think that's a ridiculous idea. But I advocate that my customer wants to know whether the products they're providing in their storefront meet their buyer's needs. And there's no better way to gather that data than in the storefront. And when you can provide that kind of data to a customer, you really become invaluable and you really start participating in their strategy, and you're not just selling a product to them any longer.
I wonder about that strategy. I wonder how many clients, new business that you get, are coming to you seeking a centralized marketing platform versus how many come needing t-shirts for an open house, and then they kind of learn about you, or a printed sign and they kind of learn more about you. Are you moving forward? Is your team sort of marching forward, holding the centralized marketing platform flag, get behind all that we can do? Or do you get new business not that way, but through a piece, and then you bring them in with centralized marketing?
No, I think, this is where it gets a little, you got to have some discipline. It's all or nothing for us. And so we do not, let me be very honest about that. There's a lot of people that approach us that don't move forward because of that. And in fairness to them, I understand, most of these customers, when they approach us, they've got 25 plus vendors providing the products and services that we provide. And I think even more complex than that, most of those vendors have relationships with different entities inside the organization. It's not just marketing, but it's HR, it's training, it's development. So our platform, as great as that sounds, I've got to get 6 or 7 people to agree to fire vendors that they might, quite frankly, love. And so that's kind of that what I say, where it sounds really great, but it's really, really hard. It's really hard to turn down that business, of course, right? It's often I'm like, should I have just taken that one piece to open the door? But it just in my view doesn't make sense, because I think at the end of the day, if you don't believe in a centralized marketing platform as we define it, or you don't think that marketing operations are costly for you, then we're not aligned, and it's not going to be a long-term relationship in my view. With that said, this requires really the larger players. If you own 6 or 7 properties, I can't eat much savings out of your marketing operations. And most of our customers are in the hundreds of properties, or thousands, where there's real scale and real cost to distribute all of these goods. So, like I said earlier, I always want to be who I'm not. Every time I talk to another CEO in the D-Scoop organization, I want to be them, and they're intrigued by what I do. And so, it's fascinating. But we've really just decided that, to just carry that flag and not deviate. And we are entering other verticals. We've been focused over the last few years. We've recently got into the brick and mortar bank vertical or financial vertical. We find that very intriguing because they have a lot of assets or physical locations like apartments. They buy permanent signs. They have name changes and acquisitions all the time. Uniforms, POP. So we've got one large customer in that vertical that we launched during COVID, and we're really trying to develop a version of ourselves in that vertical. And then we've dabbled in a couple others, but as we've talked about, when we got into the brick and mortar bank business, we still have a lot to learn. I can't speak in that vertical like I can in multifamily.
But a lot of the things that you learned in the multifamily and creating the platform, it's applicable. So you're just basically selling the platform just in a different vertical.
Yeah, absolutely. But we don't have those focus group studies, and
right.
I can't tell you how a financial institution might sell insurance, banking, investment products and stuff today.
Right. Sure, you're well on your way to learning that stuff, though.
We'll see. Every vertical has so many unique challenges. It is fun though. It is fun. It's fun to explore. We've got a customer that's in the petroleum, gas station business. They've got about 800 gas stations, and so there's some interesting things that have come from COVID. Other verticals that have seen the platform and showed interest. But it's super early to know whether we can be as sticky in those verticals as we are in multifamily.
I find it fascinating and sort of hopefully rejuvenating that there's a company out there that's succeeding and turning down business, or giving it to others, maybe in the D-Scoop community or elsewhere. It just seems like it's a big difference between talking about how you're a vertical market specialist and actually doing the kinds of things that you guys are doing for property managers. Just because you're selling to 3 plant nurseries doesn't mean that you have a strategy to in depth attack that market. So this is more of a compliment than a question, because I just remain fascinated by that.
Well, I think what I would say, and I'm sure many of the folks you interact with, within the D-Scoop organization too. I mean, there's just so many people that have these great stories. I mean, every year I hear about somebody that, like I said, I always want to be who I'm not. I'm like, wow, this person's doing that. I bring it back to my leadership team. They're like, slow down. It's fun. So, we love what we do at Benson. We've got a great team of folks. I got a great leadership team that's passionate about it. And so, it's fun.
I do have one question about sort of the structure of your team. Because you do so many different things for this one specific audience, design services included, signage, promotional products. Like, the promotional products world is different than the print world. It might be the same buyer, but there's a different language. There's, different needs and so forth. How was your team able to be cohesive for that one customer? How do they talk to each other? How do they make sure that there's lines of communication and they work together cohesively, as one unit?
Sure. That's a great question. It's something sometimes we struggle with. I'm certainly, you and everyone knows that, one of the risks when you get into all these different verticals is you've got to actually be really good at all of them. You can't just dabble, because if you do, that's going to tarnish your brand. And, none of the customers we work with are sophisticated. They aren't going to buy from us if we don't really know what we're doing in each space. So I think it starts first with market research. The first thing we do before we got into any product or service, whether it's design, promo, was going out and really listening to the customers and understanding what they liked with their current provider and what they wish I always say, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you want from your apparel, promo, doormat vendor. And then we bring that back, and our leadership team, we really focus on how to, what I said earlier in our vision about providing a solution found nowhere else. How do we solve those challenges for this product line or service? And if we can't bring it in this, so I like to say we are not in the digital marketing space because I cannot move the meter. There's so many good digital players out there that I can't provide a product or service and transform that for my customer, or frankly do it better. And so that's something we're very focused on. We won't get into something we can't significantly improve. But to your question about how we integrate that, so back to where I said we have a biz dev person and we land a customer, and it can take time. It can take 2 years to get somebody on board with such a commitment. All of our customers have a dedicated account team. That's a fancy word for project managers, account managers. And within those teams, most of those teams are large enough that there's experts in the various products and services. And so, but now the bulk of our work is coming through the storefronts. So, we're highly focused on getting true web to print procurement. So 80% of what we do comes through those storefronts, and that's true web to print, from the paper print to the name tags to the embroidery, down to a lot of even the permanent signs are going straight from that storefront to that machine or that department to be produced. So then the account teams are really focused on the more custom strategic procurement purchases. But if I was being very candid, I think printing is very complex compared to like promotional products, apparel. I mean, those product lines, you look at apparel, at the end of the day, you're going to carry 30, 40 brands. It comes in 20 colors, 6 sizes. You're digitizing a logo or setting up a screen print. I think printers are primed to take on these other verticals. I think they're running sophisticated operations. Print owners are making huge capital investments in the equipment compared to some of these other verticals. Low capital cost, not that complex. And so I think printers, and I talked to several printers, here in the Atlanta area that I'm friends with about, the print industry is primed to really enter some of these markets and do really, really well, in my view. I just frankly find permanent signs is a different story, super complex product line, right? Engineering, environmental graphic design folks, installation, complicated. But outside of that, like all these, random products that I'm talking about, in full transparency, I think they're relatively simple compared to print. So I may not be accurate, and I may have my leadership team might reprimand me when they hear this, but that's kind of really what I believe and what I would say to print owners, especially these printers that are much larger than us, running offset and digital operations, because we're all digital. So we all of our print runs are short run projects, so we can do everything on HP Indigos. So when I meet some of these printers that have these huge offset and digital and bindery operations, I'm like, you're running a complex operation.
My last question, and you've been very humble in saying that a lot of your business decisions have been lucky or happenstance, but what do you feel is your superpower that kind of got to that if somebody had advice to come to you for, what are they coming to you for?
I have a very high client retention, and I don't want to confuse calling clients friends with them lowering their expectations. I think one of the reasons I've been able to have that retention and friendship is my commitment to delivering for those customers. But I want every one of my customers, I want to be able to make them look like a superstar within their organization. I want everything we do for them to elevate their position in the company, give them credibility at the leadership table, provide the data we talked about earlier. When you think about marketers in general, often they sometimes, not in sophisticated like public traded companies, but I'm talking mid-size organizations, often the marketers have a hard time finding a seat at the table in an organization because marketing is so emotional. A lot of times there's data missing around those items. Other leadership people see it as an expense. So, if I can help that marketer, with their own brand within the company, help them get a seat at the table at leadership, that's a win-win. It's a win-win for our long-term stability with them, and it's a win-win for that contact of ours within their organization. And that's what I really get excited about, is when I can be called to a meeting and really understand where the marketer's struggling and what they need to be able to shine within their organization and help them do that.
I lied. Wasn't my last question. I still, the paint booth. Like, seriously, like that. I saw that paint booth. That thing's like, where did that fit in? Like, how did you say, oh, I'm going to take the dive and I'm going to get into this permanent signage. We're going to put in a paint booth that's like 2 stories high and, big enough to get a semi trailer. It seemed like in there.
You're going to say it was luck. I think, I joke, my wife and my daughter are both interior designers. And so, there was always projects that they wanted something painted. And then I had a couple clients that were looking to create kiosk at their apartment communities. So, basically, kiosk where you could download information, and that turned into an architectural project. And so what I said earlier about capital cost, a paint booth's like $50,000. So I win this job and I'm like, I'm not going to outsource it. I'm going to paint it. And so, we didn't originally make the capital investment to be in the permanent sign business. We made it to fabricate this very niche product that the industry wanted at that time. But that led to, getting into the permanent sign business. So there, I know you're joking, but, I always say all entrepreneurs are really lucky. Let's face it.
Actually, I have a follow-up to what you said about the superhero question, because it's such a cool answer that your superhero is basically giving your audience the superpowers that they need to look like heroes. Do you do that through like reports, or do you arm them with data to take into meetings that are maybe based on the platform's reporting, etc.? Can you talk about how you're arming those people to look like heroes?
Sure. So we know within the vertical we serve, we know generally how many touch points there are in a non-automated procurement process. So how many times is that promotional product, conversation, passed through an organization from the infancy of the idea to getting it delivered to the property. And so we have a lot of data around the time, the number of touch points, the number of personas that touch that. And then typically when we meet a customer, very little of their work is automated, like true web to print. I used to call like our old stores dumb stores because you ordered it online, but then we still pulled it offline and did manual tickets, manual proofing. And then we take that data, and every customer is in a different state when you meet them. Some maybe have a little bit more automation, some have less. And so we have that data. Then we look at within our stores, we track the number of minutes and clicks it takes to order every single product. We have about 2,000 SKUs, and we have that data on all 2,000 SKUs. So we can quickly overlay that against what they're telling us they're doing. We call that a proof of value statement. So it's this comprehensive study we do for free for a customer that delivers the proof of value that we say we can deliver. And we have to do that before we're willing to move forward. Because let's say there is a customer that we couldn't deliver that proof of value. That's not going to be a long-term partner. And we use that data. to do that. And then, yes, we have reports that we generate for all of our customers, and we do biannual business reviews. And then they also get they're on auto distribution of these reports that show them, which a lot of people are doing this, so it's not anything we're doing super unique, where we're sharing that data. We have job trackers so they can see the status of every job at any time, and then that's overlaid by reporting that is reported. I think one of the things I would share for folks when they're looking at reporting for their customers is a customer told me about 10 years ago. They said, "I really love your reports, but I can't do anything with them because they're not formatted in a way that our business uses reports." And so we went through this journey of building our report. So we ask clients how they track things internally. I'm going to oversimplify this, but do they use red, yellow, green light statuses? And so today we build these custom reports based on how they report internally on other vendors, other performance metrics. Do they track by regional manager, state, city? Some customers actually use red, yellow, green status, because what we found is when we can deliver a report to a customer that's actionable without them having to rebuild it, tear it apart, manipulate it, that's very, very helpful for a customer.
That's amazing. I mean, that's so cool how deep you get to know your customer. And I'm just not sure that many other printers are open to even trying to do something like that.
I meet a lot of printers. I'm literally 7 minutes from the HP demo center here in Alpharetta, and I have this conversation with a lot of them. I think just like I opened up in full transparency, it's sometimes scary, right? You've got this. I'm no different. I started as a printer. That's all I did was print, and I'm not going to say Again, we were very lucky at Benson, and we landed some phenomenal customers that stayed with us. But more importantly, they were willing to share data, share issues. But it is scary. It's scary to go out and build an apparel business, because it's just so different than what you did in print. But what I told you earlier, and what I tell a lot of the printers is they're running very complex businesses compared to these other verticals or product providers or decorators. So I think they have it in them, but I'm not going to say it wasn't scary. I always like to say I'm a marketer at heart, and that's the reason I was willing to do it, because I didn't really weigh out the risk too well. And where some of my father, who has a degree in finance, would say, "But have you really looked at the ROI on that embroidery machine? And just because a customer wants it, do you really want to get in that space?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do actually." So, it's fun. We all work in a great industry with just a lot of smart people. I just think we're ripe for a lot of people entering these other providing these other products and services.
All right.
Well, appreciate this conversation. It's been fun.
It's been fantastic. Thank you so much, Brian.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for letting me share my story, and I'm excited to continue to meet more great people in our industry.
Excellent.